What's your least favorite training session?
Oh, rest days.
I knew you were going to say
Hi, Taylor.
Hey, Sophia, what's going on? How's it going today?
Good.
Glad you could make it. Thanks for coming on and having this conversation with me. Really exciting stuff coming out of your corner. I'm really glad we got to have this conversation. I wanted to get started off and kind of just get to know you, kind of get to know the real Sofia Schugar, where you're from, what your background in sport is, how long you've been racing, how you found gravel, and how you went down this path of racing ultra gravel events such as the Traka 360.
Okay. Well, I'm from San Diego. I started cycling in San Diego because a longtime family friend thought I would really enjoy it. And she took me on my first bike ride when I was like a junior in college. And then I was pretty much immediately hooked. And I did the classic start with triathlon and move into cycling thing. Before that, though, I did ballet. So not a lot of endurance sports, except for like a year of running in college or in high school. So I kind of just got really into it right away.
Nice. Yeah. So, who else was a ballerina? I think um, Elizabeth Dixon on Fount.
Oh,
That
yeah.
she finished second in the U.S. Crit Nationals.
Yeah.
Came
And
from
she won the
a
last
background in
stage of
ballet.
Gila too. I think it's people who do ballet have
Yeah.
a crazy switch in them that allows them to do really good at endurance sports.
Do you think it's because of how straight they can point their toes? Is that like a big factor in endurance sport? Or yeah, that's quite
Mm.
interesting. Hmm. Um, so you grew up in San Diego, got into cycling kind of a little later, I'd say, than maybe most racers at your level. Where are you currently living right now?
We moved to Girona because it was what every cool person was doing, but we also bike packed in Europe over the summer and then finished with a race in Girona. And it just turned out that we had a bunch of friends here, and it's a pretty easy place to come and live and train. And it's really accessible for a lot more races, like more so than the United States. I think it's a lot more affordable to live and a lot more affordable to travel to races. So we've kind of just done it for 1 year because we both quit our jobs and we were looking for something cool to fill our time.
That does sound pretty cool. I see you've been going kind of back and forth to the U.S., back to Spain a little bit this year, with the road program. You're on Monarch Racing, is that correct?
Yeah, I'm on Monarch this year. There was going to be a little bit more travel back and forth, but then they canceled all the road races in America. So it's been a lot more time in Europe than I initially planned.
Okay, and so you've come from kind of a road background, I'd say, but now maybe you're a little bit more gravel focused. How did that transition happen?
Um, I I like started road racing actually after college. I did like 2 road races in college. Then after college, I moved to Australia for 2 years and I started biking there. And I did road races, but it was funny because like with social media and everything, I noticed gravel was taking off in America. And I was always like, well, I love doing really long rides. And a lot of the road racing in Australia was crits. There's like not a huge like long or like stage race program anywhere but Europe, but gravel looked like accessible and it looked like there was a lot of opportunity in America. So then I was like, okay, I've done my 2 years in Australia. I'm going to go home and like try this new gravel thing out. But it was kind of hard at first because I was like working in a bike shop and you can't really get a gravel bike. So I borrowed a friend's bike and did like local races like BWR San Diego and Gravel and Wine in 2022, I think. And that's basically like when I started gravel was just with like being able to do it locally in San Diego.
Yeah, that's pretty good accessibility as because BWR San Diego is probably one of the biggest gravel races in the country. How was that experience for you, and how did that differ from some of the road racing you've done?
I was definitely, well, I still would say that was also like my first year of road racing at an elite level. So I went into everything. I think that 2022 was just like the first year that I raced elite, and I didn't know anything. Like compared to now, I'm like, oh, I know a little bit more, but I also know that I don't know anything. So BWR San Diego, it was really hectic at the beginning, a hectic start. But then I just kind of like was enjoying myself. I was like, we're gonna go up. I kind of ride like this in training too. I just like climb as hard as I can and then coast as easy as I can, which is like a problem for people who like riding with me or want to ride with me. But that's kind of how BWR was. I was like a little clueless, definitely clueless on the nutrition. Like I had a nutrition strategy, but the extent to which I followed that was probably like zero compared to like what I would prepare now. But I think it went pretty well. I think I got like top 20. So that was reassuring, you know. You're like, oh, I'm pretty close. It was my second gravel race on a borrowed bike that was a size too big. First day in the shoes, I had like hot foot all day long. And that was like the one thing that I remember. It was like I just got like off-road shoes and my feet were like so hot the whole race. It was like worse than the pain of racing. But like now I think I go in with like I think about it a little bit more instead of being like, oh, it's the local race that I'm just gonna turn up to and see how good I do.
Right. Yeah, I feel like you've come quite a far way in just a short amount of time, so that's pretty awesome to see. You just came off of a top 10 finish at the Traka 360, getting ninth there. And I think the timing of that is really cool because there's a lot of hubbub around Unbound right now with that happening this past weekend. That race is 200 miles, which is quite far, but the Traka 360 is 360 kilometers. And for those of us that are not European, that is actually longer than 200 miles. Is that correct?
Yeah. They shortened it to 340 this year, but I think that's still longer than 320K or 200 miles, which is 320K.
Did they still call it the Traka 360 or was it the Traka 340?
I think they still called it the 360.
Okay, that's interesting. So yeah, I really wanted to get into the main topic of the day, which is how the Traka 360 went for you. I wanted to ask you about the preparation for that race and the kind of training you've been doing, and then talking about the race itself. So let's get started with the preparation. Like, how do you even prepare and train for a race that long?
I was doing quite a bit of like back-to-back long rides. I don't think I did anything like insane. I've like naturally done like 3 10-hour rides in my life. So like those were at the back of my mind the whole time. And then like a lot of days of like 6 hours and then the next day 5 hours and then a rest day. But I don't think I was going out and doing any like 12-hour days or anything crazy like that. And then along with that, I was also preparing for like stage racing in America a little bit. So I would have like long days and then some VO2 max intervals, which I was like, I was definitely like preparing for both, but I ended up at the end way fitter than I've ever been. Like my best finish at Redlands. So kind of like took 2 months doing that with like my long rides on the weekend, 6 hours Saturday, 4 or 5 hours Sunday. And then after Redlands, it was just more like zone 3 in those long rides. So preparing to like kind of hold the steady pace that I assumed I would hold at the Traka within those long rides. And then some hours during the weekdays, but it wasn't super interval heavy, which is fun for me though, because I love the long rides.
So you're riding probably 23, 25 hours a week or so. Is that correct?
Sometimes, yeah.
How do you balance that with eating off the bike and sleeping and having a social life? And are you just like tired all the time, or what does that look like for you?
I think it's a funny joke though. I said to my friends, I'm like, you know what I think my natural ability to do in biking is, and like I think I'm like a gifted recoverer because I do balance it with a lot of things. I'm a coach. Last year I had like 3 part-time jobs, and everyone, but I like it jokingly, I'm unemployed, but I still work, you know? And my friends are like, you're the busiest unemployed person we know. But this year I definitely like dialed it back. One of my jobs was like coaching exercise fitness classes at the gym. So I like took that out to kind of help recovery. And then, I mean, if you're in Girona, you're surrounded by cyclists. So your social life is your riding. And then it's pretty easy to like relax because like I'm probably like not the most good at recovering in Girona, being like, oh, I'm gonna get off my feet and stuff. But if everyone else is doing it, it's really easy to like not have any friends to hang out with. But I'd say that like this little internal fire in me made it so that I could still juggle a bunch of stuff, and I wasn't really tired off of like 20 hours of training a week. Last week I did 26, and I was like, oh, I'm excited for like an off day, but I'm not like gonna die. And I'd say like as far as nutrition goes, I've always been a really healthy eater. I think that started in ballet, and like my mom is a really healthy eater, so I grew up like knowing how to cook healthy food for myself. I'm vegetarian, which is also something that I have to be pretty mindful of, but I try to like go out of my way to make sure I'm eating like a variety of foods and vitamins, and like I'm like pour a bunch of sesame seeds on my dinner, or like add a bunch of chickpeas, and I'm trying to get like protein and things that I might be missing out on. But I'd say like leading up to the Traka, I kind of like built enough base in November and December that once it started getting like a little bit longer weeks and like adding in threshold or like zone 3 sessions, that I wasn't super tired all the time.
Nice. That sounds like you had a good progressive overload with that. Let's talk about the race itself. So Traka 360, actually the Traka 340, that's a long day. That's like, I think it was, what was your finishing time? 14 and a half hours or so?
I don't know.
That just sounds like a really daunting undertaking. Can you walk me through maybe the start of the race and the middle part and the finish, and maybe kind of how your mindset was during each of those phases?
Definitely.
And I also want to hear about the nutrition strategy for that race and what it took to finish in the top 10 as far as pacing and nutrition goes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll say nutrition first because I prepared that like a while before. Definitely wasn't the best in nutrition leading into like this season. But then once the season started, which I'll say I started training in November, I started to be like more conscious about eating during my training rides. And I think I went from like probably 30 grams of carbs to like 60 grams of carbs an hour to like 80. I know like a month before the race, I reconned the course with my friends and we like bike packed it. So we did one day 7 hours and then another day 7 hours. And on both of those days, I was super on top of my nutrition, doing like 100 grams of carbs an hour just so that my stomach, like I could see what happens. Because last year I had a race and bad things happened. So I learned from that. And I was like, we're never going to let that happen again. Let's try these gels. And then I just kind of found nutrition that worked for me. Sat down with basically a team, and like reaching for a bottle or like reaching for a gel is hard for me when I'm racing, especially like at the beginning of the race. So we decided to put most of my carb mix in my water backpack because I'll always kind of like reach down and do that. So I started with a backpack, a bottle of carbs, and like a bottle of electrolytes. And I basically replenished that at the first aid station, like the exact same setup, plus like 8 gels. And the first aid station was at like 4-ish hours in. And then the second aid station, I did the same thing. So I had like the most significant source of carbs was like a water backpack with 2 liters of liquid and like 360 grams of carbs. No, 270 grams of carbs. I'll probably use that again for like other races. But I was at about like 90 to 100 grams of carbs an hour. I think some people are probably doing more, but that really worked for me. And I never felt hungry on the bike, and I never felt like I was going to poop my pants, which I think is an improvement over some other races. Yeah, you don't want to be in the middle of the woods in a 340K race with no bathroom. And then, so the race itself, glad I was doing those VO2 max intervals, because I started really far back, because I don't get any call-ups or anything. So I started really far back. And I think I was doing like 500 watts to like get to where my first, like one of the first competitive woman was. So that was really, the beginning was really hard, and you're going really hard, and there's like a ton of people, and there's puddles and mud, and people are just going from like 32 to like 0 in the mud. So the beginning was super chaotic. I think next time I'll just probably like be more annoying and push to the front so I can be near the other woman. And then it's like rolling climbs. So just trying to like keep working my way up within my limits. Like, but I mean, I said I would be like conscious of like how hard I was going, but I definitely was literally just like spraying watts everywhere, going as hard as I could at the beginning of the race. Unfortunately, I didn't turn my Garmin on or anything either, so I don't have all of that data, but I can assure you I was going really freaking hard at the beginning. Got in a group, and it just kind of felt like I was just kind of going at a pace as if it was like a shorter race. I was like, I just need to stay in the best group that I can for now. It ended up being like an interesting group. I think I wish I was like a little bit further, because there was like the whole beginning of the race have these like potholes full of water and mud, and people were like braking before that. And then I'm like, no, man, you're still going to have to go through it. Like, just go. But that was, then we like got our groove. Another woman, Cynthia, was with me, and then her and I were kind of like leading the pack through the technical sections. Like it was a little surgy too. Like some guys get on the front and then they do like 300 watts or like 400 watts, and then they like blow up, and then they go to the back, and then, that's the group that I was in.
Yeah.
Not the best, but we made it work. Got to the first aid station, and I like looked at my power, and I was like, oh, I was going really hard. Oh God. I'm like, maybe I should start pacing it now, because there's about 10 hours left in the day, and that's when all the climbing started. So I was alone for that. One of my friends was with me in the aid station, and she was like, bye, bitch. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, I'm not going to come catch you, but I tried. Ate a little bit of crap when I was alone in like a puddle all by myself, took a little bath.
Oh no.
But I was like, oh, this is dumb. But I think that was like my lowest point, but that was like for maybe 5 seconds. And then climbing, I like kept it at a nice pace. I guess nothing crazy happened in the race, but I went in knowing that my brakes weren't working and that they couldn't be fixed. So after all the climbing, I was descending like super cautiously, because I didn't have any like fine ability to control my brakes. Like the piston is rusted, something like that, corroded, and like air gets in the brake line. Not very good for bike handling, but I tried my best, and I was probably like, they did take the 10K that they took out. 20K was the most technical section, which I'm like kind of glad, because I was like, I don't even know if I could erase this. And then hike a bike. And then I feel like after that, I just like kind of cruised. I was like holding really strong power for what I've been like training in, the zones I've been training in. I wasn't like down about it at all. I found some like good groups to rotate with. But then I just realized in the last like 4 hours or so, I was actually feeling really good. Like it just kind of didn't feel like I had ridden 10 hours before that, which was nice. But then, I mean, there's so many things in hindsight. I didn't even think of these things as things that went wrong, because it was such a great experience and a fun day. But then my Garmin died, so I had to like sit there and like wait for someone to catch me that had the course. But it was great because he had the course but didn't have a light, and I had the light but didn't have a course. So like
So
I
you
said
guys
it to this guy. Yeah.
needed each other to get through it.
Yeah, that was good. I was glad I found him. But yeah, again, I think it was a super great day. I don't think like anything physically held me back. I think I was able to like push my limits and figure out how hard I could pedal for like 13, 14 hours. And I had a lot of fun. I mean, I was really happy with ninth right when it finished, but now days later, I'm like, okay, I want to do better next time. So that's something to reflect on.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you've already been reflecting on the things that could be improved, and yeah, I mean, there's always going to be variables out of your control in these gravel races, but having fully functioning brakes, having a charged up Garmin.
Yeah, but I mean, it took until right now for me to be like, oh, like maybe, but I don't know if those things would have had a huge effect on how I finished. I do know my friend that was in front of me who left the aid station before me. My partner, well, actually, another very crucial thing is having some support in the aid stations to like make sure everything goes smoothly. My partner was timing our gap the whole time, and we like kept it at 3 minutes or 4 minutes the whole race. So I mean, I could have had things fixed, but like everyone has something go wrong.
Right. And I mean, I feel like it's good to have things to improve on when you finish the race, right? Unless you win the race, it's like, okay, because if there's things you can improve on, there's hope for progression. And
For
it's
the
like
future.
I can do better next time, right? But if you finish and you're like, well, I did absolutely everything spot on and I still finished ninth, like maybe this is like the best I'm ever gonna get. But it sounds
Yeah,
like you have still like a good amount of progress to make, which is exciting.
hopefully.
Um,
Hopefully.
which kind of brings me to my next talking point of what is so you finished ninth overall, the Traka 360. What is next for Sofia's calendar?
I'm doing some UCI races which seem like really interesting. I'm doing Wish One, I think is coming up. And
Wait, which one
then
are you doing?
Wish One. Wish One is which one I'm doing.
Oh, I see, I see.
And that's in France. I heard it used to end on a cyclocross course, which I think would be really fun. I hope they're still doing that. And then I have like a Swiss gravel or octopus gravel, which is in the Gravel Earth series. I think it's just like 3 time segments, but you're like climbing in the Swiss Alps all day, which sounds like a great day out. And then the weekend after that is Gravel Swiss, which is another UCI race. And then a little while after that, I think there's a couple of races in Sweden that I'm going to try to do, but I'm just trying to take it month month at a time, especially because I'm like over here and it's quite new territory and it's me and my boyfriend coming up with this calendar and how to get everywhere. So taking it slowly is nice and something that's like definitely new for me because this is probably like the least I've ever raced. I loved racing. Like last year, I raced probably like 50 times, like local crit, local gravel race, like stage race, whatever I could get my hands on. And this year it's like, I think I've raced like 3 times. So I'm getting antsy though. I'm really excited.
Do you have any overarching goals for the whole year with all these UCI gravel races? Like
um,
what is the thought process behind traveling to France, Switzerland, and these UCI races? Are you trying to get on a professional gravel team? Is that even like a thing that exists in Europe?
There's some. I think that they definitely favor Europeans. I think that they think it's like silly when Americans come. Like with Unbound, there's a lot of like, yeah, Americans think that they control gravel, but Europeans are better. There's a lot of that. It's eye-opening. You got to come sample it yourself. But I just wanted to. I mean, I lived in Australia for 2 years. Last August, we bike packed in Europe, and I was like, we could live here. So first and foremost, which I have to like remind myself is like I came here to experience racing over here because I always told myself I'm like, well, that's the mecca of racing is Europe. So I always wanted to race over here. always wanted to like see what the culture is like. I love food. That's all why I bike. So like eat all the food in that, and then go to these races. It's more affordable than America. And then I think like a few, like I would like to qualify for Worlds. I have the qualification like list. It kind of sounds like they're just gonna pick whoever they like. But I think if I'm here showing USAC, like I'm interested, I'm here, this is what I want, then I have a chance. I also probably need some results. So getting those results is important. I've been recovering a lot more than I usually do and training really hard. So hopefully that comes through in my ability to be competitive, but also just like, why not go race the best if you have the opportunity to do it? So that's just, I'm kind of taking advantage of what I can do while I'm here.
Yeah, it sounds like an amazing journey you're on right now. Super stoked to see how the rest of the season goes for you.
Thank you, Taylor.
What's your favorite training session?
I didn't have a favorite training session leading up to the Traka, but I did a 200-mile ride with the boys at home, and that took forever. I was like, this is just the same ride. I'm like, that was 200 miles, but I think it was like 16 hours chamois time. So I was like, this is going to be easy. I just thought about that a lot.
Okay, well, I got another question for you, actually, though.
Okay.
What's your least favorite training session?
Oh, rest days.
I knew you were going to say that. That's going to be the intro clip right there.
I cried today. Today was a rest day, and at like 4 p.m. I just had a mental breakdown, and I was like, I'm gonna go do skills practice. Like I'm gonna go send this trail.
Yeah, what do you do on a rest day?
Go to the coffee shop, go on my computer a lot, like reply to emails, try to like apply to jobs. Yeah, lots of computer stuff and like sitting, but I do not enjoy them. And occasionally I do go out for like the 1 hour, very, very easy spin. And that is good too. But those are that's my least favorite.